For over 75 years, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, has been the cornerstone of Western security. Established in 1949, it was created to deter Soviet aggression, but today it remains the most powerful military alliance in the world. Yet there's a question that looms large. Can NATO survive without the United States? What happens if the US, the backbone of the alliance, decides to leave? President Donald Trump's public animosity towards Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, his willingness to embrace Russia's Vladimir Putin, and recent comments casting doubt over whether he would defend NATO allies if they don't pay, have all forced European leaders to start thinking the previously unthinkable. Is the US a reliable security partner at a time when the continent is being rocked by its biggest war since the 1940s? In this video, we'll analyze NATO's military, economic, and political foundations to determine if it can endure without its most powerful member. The United States is NATO's dominant force. It contributes nearly 70% of total defense spending among all NATO members. American troops, aircraft, and warships are stationed across Europe, forming a critical component of NATO's rapid response and deterrence capabilities. For instance, in 2023, the U.S. defense budget exceeded $800 billion, more than double that of all European NATO members combined. It provides key military assets such as strategic bombers, nuclear deterrence, and intelligence gathering. But beyond military might, the U.S. also provides leadership, logistics, and political influence that binds the alliance together. The idea of a U.S. withdrawal from NATO is not just a hypothetical scenario. President Donald Trump, even during his previous administration, repeatedly criticized NATO, calling it obsolete, and questioning why the U.S. should bear such a large financial burden. Today, after his re-election as president, discussions about America leaving NATO have persisted. Legally, the U.S. can leave NATO under Article 13 of the North Atlantic Treaty, which allows any member to exit with a one-year notice. But the real question is, what happens next? If the United States withdraws, NATO would face an immediate challenge, filling the gap left by the world's most powerful military. Currently, European NATO members, including the UK, France, and Germany, have strong but limited military capabilities compared to the US. Could they step up to maintain NATO's strength? France and the UK possess nuclear deterrence, but their combined arsenal is far smaller than the US nuclear umbrella. Germany, Europe's largest economy, has pledged to increase its defense spending, but would it be enough to compensate for the loss of US capabilities? The European Union has explored the idea of a joint European defense force. However, NATO's strength lies in its collective security. Article 5, the principle that an attack on one is an attack on all. Without US military guarantees, some NATO members, especially in Eastern Europe, might feel vulnerable. One of the most immediate concerns would be the response from adversaries like Russia. Moscow has long viewed NATO as a threat, and without the US, it might perceive an opportunity to test the alliance's resolve. Eastern European nations like Poland, the Baltic states, and Romania could find themselves at greater risk. Beyond Europe, a weakened NATO could embolden China, which has been expanding its influence in the Indo-Pacific. The US has been pressuring NATO to focus more on global security threats, including Chinese military expansion. Without Washington, NATO's influence in the Indo-Pacific can be seriously affected. The economic impact of a US withdrawal would also be significant. Defense industries, supply chains, and trade agreements could all be affected. Politically, NATO has served as a symbol of transatlantic unity. Countries in Asia, like Japan and South Korea, which rely on US security guarantees, might rethink their defense strategies as well. It's not all negative, though. Despite these challenges, NATO has proven resilient. It has adapted after the Cold War, expanded after 9/11, and responded to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. If the US leaves, NATO could survive by strengthening European-led defense initiatives, increasing defense spending, and forming new strategic partnerships. The US and Germany are the biggest contributors to NATO's military budget, civil budget, and security investment program at almost 16% each, followed by the UK at 11% and France at 10%. Analysts say it wouldn't take much for Europe to make up for the loss of Washington's contribution. If Europe unite and buy the right equipment, it could pose a serious conventional and nuclear deterrent to Russia. Ben Schreier, Europe Executive Director of the International Institute for Strategic Studies, said, "Europe alone have capacity to muster the resources it would need to defend itself. It's just a question of whether it is willing to," Schreier said. In concept, a European military could be formidable. Turkey has NATO's largest armed forces after the United States, with 355,200 active military personnel, according to the Military Balance 2025, compiled by the IISS. It's followed by France, Germany, Poland, Italy, the United Kingdom, Greece, and Spain. Turkey also has the most army personnel, which make up the majority of frontline ground troops, with 260,200. France, 113,800, Italy, 94,000, Greece, 93,000, Poland, 90,600, the UK, 78,800, Spain, 70,200, and Germany, 60,650, according to the ISS report. In contrast, there were about 80,000 US troops assigned or deployed to bases in NATO countries as of June 2024. A July 2024 report from the Congressional Research Service says, some of the larger NATO nations also have weapons equal to or many times better than what Russia has. Take aircraft carriers, for instance. While Russia has a single, antiquated aircraft carrier, the UK alone has 2 modern carriers capable of launching F-35B stealth fighters. France, Italy, and Spain field aircraft carriers or amphibious ships capable of launching fighter jets, according to the Military Balance. Aside from the US, France and the UK maintain nuclear forces, with both deploying ballistic missile submarines. The NATO allies besides the US have about 2,000 fighter and ground attack jets among them, with dozens of new F-35 stealth jets included in that number. Ground forces include modern tanks, including German Leopards and British Challengers, donated units of which are now serving in the Ukrainian military. European NATO countries can field powerful cruise missiles, like the joint Franco-British Scalp Storm Shadow, which has also proven itself on the Ukrainian battlefield. The Military Balance 2025 report notes that Europe is taking steps to improve its military forces without US help. In 2024, 6 European countries united in a project to develop ground-launched cruise missiles, made moves to increase munitions production capacity and to diversify their supplier base, looking to countries like Brazil, Israel, and South Korea as new sources for military hardware. Analysts say even if the US were to completely pull out of Europe, it would leave important infrastructure behind. The US has 31 permanent bases in Europe, according to the Congressional Research Service, naval, air, ground, and command and control facilities that would be available to the countries where they are located if the US were to leave. So, can NATO survive without the United States? The answer is complicated. While NATO would face immense challenges, it may not collapse outright. Europe has the potential to strengthen its defenses, but it would require unprecedented unity, political will, and financial investment. What do you think? Can NATO survive without the United States? Or would it struggle to remain relevant? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into global security issues.